Thank you so much, Adam, for your wise comments. And we have like 5 minutes and 42 seconds, which is great, for questions and clarifying questions and commentary. And I would like to make one quick commentary. I was with you at the foundation when you were developing the thinking around community partnerships. And I, to this day, think a lot about the wisdom from that. And I was great to see you again go through why it's important. And I just want to draw on the talk that Pearl gave this morning. And I would add one more reason to your list of why it's important. And that is researchers can come up with decisions why something's important, like, oh, vaccinations are good for the world. But if they don't work with the community to mobilize them and understand the local reasonings behind why they may not be culturally relevant, if it's top down, if it's coming out of an ivory tower, there won't necessarily be an uptake. So working with the community to understand resistances and local understandings would be another reason I think that is really important. And I think this pandemic gave us an opportunity to understand why it would have been good if more community partnerships had been involved on the ground in practice.
Thanks, I certainly agree.
There are a lot of questions.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this very interesting presentation, which is, of course, music to my ears, being in charge of UNICEF Office of Research in Innocenti, which is a dedicated research center where we work very closely with 180 country offices. But I'm not going to do any advertisements for the work we do. Just to say that I'm going to steal your words and the bridge over the chasm, and I will utilize it in my own work going forward with others. I have a question, very quick one. Co-creating research with young people. Could you say a few words about that? Everything else you said, or everything you said, I've agreed to very much. I would like to hear a few words about co-creating research with young people and children. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, we are seeing a boom in youth participatory action research, where young people are involved in identifying the challenges that they face, in developing research questions, are guided by experienced researchers in carrying out research activities and in pulling together knowledge and interrelating it with their own experiences. So for example, a study of barriers to reducing inequality in the Boston area was carried out by Margarita Alegria, a noted scholar of mental health. Currently, Emily Ozier, a researcher at Berkeley, is leading a group of young people to address the challenges of student absenteeism from school. Each of these is an example of youth participatory action research, where the youth themselves help identify the questions, speak with their peers, and furnish some of the evidence that is used under the supervision and with the guidance, and ultimately with the write-up of experienced researchers to answer questions in their environment.
Thank you. Vittorio?
Thank you, Adam. I was too very happy to hear at a certain point in your presentation when you talked about new ways of doing research. If you succeed in that, you will get a special prize. Because it seems to me that today, in particular in the social sciences, there is the following problem. We know that distinction between deduction and induction, everybody. But we kept on forgetting in recent times the third dimension, which is abduction. Abduction means that before you start the research from an hypothesis, you have to check whether or not that hypothesis does make sense or not. The fact is that today everybody says, well, I start from this hypothesis and so I look for money to get finance to carry on the research. So a lot of money is wasted and the results are very meager, very poor, because not every hypothesis deserves to a full research. Before, you have to check whether or not the hypothesis does make sense. That is what the Greek called abduction. That is particularly relevant in the case of pandemic. Consider, for instance, the relations between environmental degrade and the spread of the virus. There is, I cannot say that I went through all the publication, but the vast majority of publications were a real waste of time and, above all, of money, because people started from a very strange hypothesis and then using correlation methods instead of causal analysis, they arrived at a conclusion which was disproved by the facts. So if you could instill, using the funds of your foundation, which I understand you are the president, this habit, that would be really a very important and big contribution to the advancement of our knowledge. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with your remarks. I think they're completely consistent with the stance I've taken in this talk. And indeed, when we evaluate research questions for our competitions, we're asking, what is the inequality and what is the lever for change? And then what are the outcomes? How will we know? And only applications that can pass that three-part test are successful. But a part of this problem is the way universities are structured and the incentive system in universities, where social science researchers tend to focus on testing the theories that come out of their disciplines instead of solving real problems in their communities. And that is a problem. That's why the research proceeds as it typically does. Suppose we valued research not only for its ability to test scientific theories, but also for its ability to solve real problems in the world. We could have markers that would evaluate. We could take, just as we now get testimonials from other researchers saying, this research influenced my research, we could get a testimonial from a policymaker that says, this research influenced the policy I promoted. Just as we now have quantitative markers of research productivity, like citation counts, we could have quantitative markers of how much research is mentioned in public debates or in legislative deliberation. So we can reshape universities to incentivize and encourage partnership-oriented, engaged scholarship. We could do that better than we have.
Thank you very much, Adam. We have one more question from Pearl joining us from South Africa. Please, your question, and then we will turn to Melissa.
Okay, I had written on the chat box that I will comment at the end, but just a quick one. I really like the emphasis on the type of research that is to be done at the end, Adam. My only two comments is, the foundations especially, and their relationship with vehicles such as NGOs, I wonder what, and I'm not really expecting a question right away, but just to plant the thought, what is the threshold of sustainability of the interaction? In other words, I'm not saying, and I can imagine that the risk of dependence must be watched, but at the same time, in order to be able to make an impact, there needs to be some kind of sustainability leeway between the support and the vehicle, which might be the NGO. But there is the other side of the coin, which is my second point, which is that there's politics in communities, which the foundations and NGOs can walk into. So there usually is a need to analyze the politics and define the boundaries, so that you don't walk into political squabbles around big things such as land, and then fail to make an impact on real souls on the ground. Those are just my two comments.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. I have a better answer for the first one than I do for the second. I think the sustainability is a primary goal of the partnership model. The idea is that the partnership is long lasting and survives any transition among individual leadership. So the partnership model is well geared to address your first point. Second point is more challenging.
Thank you so very much, Adam. I would please join me in thanking Adam for his wise remarks.